Well. Dogging It Live show. This is the first episode of 2023. What's going on, Melina?
Boy, man, I tell you, your attendance for this year is pretty remarkable so far, Joey. I gotta
I'm
say,
one for
buddy,
I'm batting 1,000.
you really are, man. So no one
Hey,
can ever take that away from you yet, buddy.
I wonder if anybody's gonna be here. People watching. There's a lot of football on TV. People hanging out. I'm sure
I think
still
people are
celebrating New
winding
Year.
down at the house, right?
Yeah.
They had a long night, New Year's Eve on a Saturday night, so now they're at the house with the family and just kicking back and relaxing. Whether you're dreading the week to come or maybe
Hey,
have a
Kai
couple more days off.
Waldron's in here. Kai Waldron, what's up, man? He's saying we need more content on Patreon. That's Melina Mike's department. So Melina, you got to get on that, man. Our buddy
That
Rick
is not that
Glasscock.
that is not true. We had a lot of plans, and then Joey decided to have some health issues, but we're gonna get back on it for sure.
Roberto Franco. That's a beautiful cue you posted, by the way. That one with the red and the real natural wood grain. That thing's gorgeous.
Got it right over there. Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
Bacote. The forearm's pretty
Matthew
sick. It's
McConaughey. What's up, guys? Christian McLean. Thanks for joining. We got a bunch of stuff to talk about. We haven't done this in a while. You guys probably saw my video having some health issues a couple weeks ago, and Melina Mike, as you can see, was growing facial hair. So
I'm
we've
stressing
been
out
kind of
about my
busy.
guy. No, this is honest to God. This is what happened. So Joey texts me and he says, we had plans, and he says, "Hey, something serious is going on. I'm a little worried." And I said, "Okay." And I was concerned about my friend and try not to overwhelm his wife with a bunch of messages. But we love you and we're glad to have you back, buddy. I'm glad you're all
Thank you. You grow facial hair for me. If anything ever happens to you, I'll shave my head. Okay.
right.
Solidarity,
That's a good balance. That's a good balance. Although the mustache is probably gonna be gone by tomorrow, be my
Oh,
guess. So
really? Gonna
yeah,
take care of that. Hey,
yeah,
listen, Melina, I just want to start talking about some things from 2022. It was a great year. We spent some
definitely.
time what a way to cap off the year, Moscone Cup, right? And you'll notice that we still have all these sponsors up around the outside of the video here, the people that helped us get to the Moscone Cup, along with our patrons from Patreon. Thank you guys so much for that. But yeah, we had a great time out at Moscone Cup. It was a great way to cap off the year. Only way it would have been better is if US would have won. But they were game. They fought hard,
I
and it
did.
was really great. We really didn't have any type of recap on the Moscone Cup, just because afterwards, I guess if you've never been, it's all kinds of excitement for the 4 days while you're there, and then
Right.
when it's over, it is over quick. Like we
Get
were
the hell out of here.
yeah, we were advised that if you guys want to interview players afterwards, get right in the ring with them, right at the table, and so we did, and we interviewed some players, but then afterwards, it was like I think everybody after 4 days was just like, breathed
Yeah.
a huge sigh of relief. So we really
Right.
didn't even have a chance to come on and kind of, I guess, decompress or discuss what our thoughts were about it. It was your first time there, my first time there. What were your thoughts on the whole thing, Melina?
I mean, just what a top shelf event it was. From you get a glimpse of it from the camera and whatever app you're watching, but it's completely different being there in person. The energy in that room from start to finish, even when it's dead. I've never seen a room rumble so much and
Mm-hmm.
then in a second get dead silent the way
Yeah.
that it did. Um, I've never been to anything like that before in pool, and I'm excited to go back next year, and I hope we're going to be invited back. So,
Yeah, I hope so too. I don't think we dogged it too bad. I think we should be back. But
mm,
the only thing I can think that's kind of similar that I've experienced in my life is out in Phoenix. We have this event called the Waste Management Phoenix Open, and it's in Scottsdale. It's at the
the
TPC.
the waste management Phoenix Open. You're right.
Yes,
That's
It's it is it's like a party where there happens to be a golf tournament going on, and I went there with my 6 year when my oldest son was 6 years old. I took him on like late day Saturday, which is the party day. And so we're there watching like the end, and people are drunk, people are going crazy. I mean, it's like the Mosconi Cup of golf, I think. And but what would happen, the same thing that would happen that we witnessed out in Vegas, there would be tons of like people, being all rowdy, but then right when the putt was about to happen, it was like this hush came over the crowd.
Right.
And that's the same experience we had out there in Vegas. A lot of yelling, hollering, and hooping. And then when it was time, even when, Filler and Shaw and some of the USA's enemies were down on a shot, the USA crowd I thought was very respectful for the most part. There were one or two incidents, but for the most part, everything got really
There was a
silent.
couple of incidents. Yeah.
Yeah, and got really quiet. And it was just a great environment. And like you, I don't think I'll ever want to miss another one.
Fetter's in the chat. He's got jokes.
Fetter's going off.
No, I think it's people who respect the game and who have a lot of passion for the game, but then they're
Yeah.
also sports fans. So like it's great to have that many like-minded people with the same enthusiasm as you, where like you appreciate when, hey, it's time to shut up because they know this is difficult, right? And then even when I still remember Josh's like force follow with the cue ball, close to the cushion, and he comes, 2 rails and perfect shape. Even if it's Josh hitting the ball like that, shooting the liver out of the American fans, they still clap and appreciate and give respect where it's
Oh
due,
yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
it was just phenomenal.
You and I kind of looked at each other at one point when Filler was backed up against the short rail way up table, and he has a ball that he's got to spear in, and he follows with inside English and comes around 3 rails, and I'm like that's a hard shot to hit on a Valley bar box, and that table was super tight, and he spears that sucker in, and at that point you just have to like tip your hat. If you're a pool fan, you got to
Definitely.
tip your hat. Even if they're your arch enemy and you want the USA to win, man, what a shot in that moment. And there was tons of moments like that for Europe. There were tons of moments like that for the US. It was a very competitive match, probably even a little closer than what the scoreline dictated at the end, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you felt it from beginning to end. The Europeans start off with going down the first day, showed their bottle, as the Europeans say, later on. Um, all in all, like it had a lot of ebbs and flows and oohs and ahs and tense moments and moments where I thought the Americans were going to tie it up late, and this the shot missed by Sky kind of took the air out of the sail, so to speak. But all in all, the event was just nothing like I've ever been to before in pool, and I've been to a lot of decent events, a lot of like bucket list pool events. Nothing compares to the Mosconi Cup. Nothing.
Yeah,
Not even
absolutely.
close.
So look, since Fedor's in here and he's chatting it up, that was one of the items we want to talk about. And people are
Yeah.
starting to comment about it with that interview with Joe Rogan. I remember I was that morning, I went to get a coffee and I looked down at my phone and someone on Facebook posted an image of Fedor with Joe Rogan, like that image when he has his guests on and he, puts it out. And I'm like, did somebody Photoshop this? Is this real life? And I had to pinch myself and I called my wife immediately, who's like kind of a pool fan, but she knows Fedor. She knows I've interviewed Fedor and we've had him on the show. And I said, you're not going to believe this. Fedor Gorsu's on Joe Rogan. This is incredible. I can't wait to listen. And all throughout the day, I had one of the busiest days, but I kept getting like 40 minutes here, 20 more here, 20 more
That's been
here
me.
until I finally got the interview over with. And I just thought, what an awesome thing for our sport right now. If you look at what's happened this year with the Shane on 60 Minutes and Jeanette on ESPN,
And
and
it's
now
all
the
around the
top
same
off the
time.
year. Yeah, top off the year, Fedor Gorst on Joe Rogan. What were your thoughts on it, Mike?
Exposure for the game. There has been mixed reactions when it comes to some of the subjects that were covered during the podcast, but I think it was great. I love it. I think all publicity for pool is great, and I agree. Piggybacking off of everything else that's gone on, like that's been in vogue primetime media when it comes to the 60 minutes, the 30 for 30 with Jeanette Lee, and then now you follow this up with the millions, tens of millions of people that listen to that podcast. Um, yeah, I don't think it could have gone any better. I think Federer is the epitome of what an ambassador for our sport looks like, from both a professional side of it, from a guy who can win tournaments, a guy who can gamble, a guy who speaks very well. He can just cover so many bases. Um, I'm proud of him. I'm glad it was him that got to do it, especially considering like the shit that he went through this year, especially
Yeah.
on the tail end of it, it's kind of fitting that you what looks to be like the biggest event in our sport, he misses out on, and then he ends up getting on the biggest stage that any pool player
Yeah.
has been on. Um, yeah, really ever that I can think of.
You know,
Outside of these last two.
yeah, a couple things that kind of stuck with me about the interview is, Rogan talked about having some ideas for doing some stuff for pool. And one of those ideas was commentating and having matches there at his place. And I think that would really be a hit because one of the things that I thought he did a great job of is you could tell he loves pool and he started geeking out on it. And him and Federer are like talking pool talk. When I met my wife, we dated for like 6 months and I'm coming home from pool tournaments and I'm telling her, oh, yeah, I had this guy got this roll and I kicked the ball off 3 rails and this happened and that happened. And after 6 months, she says, hey, Joey, I love hearing about your tales of playing
Oh,
pool,
this is the
but
best.
I don't understand a word of it. And then I realized like we have a completely different vocabulary, completely different thing. But Rogan did a great job
Bingo.
of reeling it in and saying, hey, Federer, just let me explain it for the people at home.
He
If
broke it
you guys
down.
don't know what a magic rack is, here's what it
Right.
is. Or if you guys don't know this. And I think that's what someone like Rogan could add to commentating pool matches as well. Because when I was commentating pool matches, I'd say, oh, yeah, he's just going to play a little left English, get over here for the 5 ball. And I came home one night, my wife listened to it, and she was like, hey, you should
What the
say
hell are you talking about? Right.
no, but she said, you should say like the orange 5 ball, which is next, or, talk about which ball they're going to next, the colors, so that people who don't understand pool would get it. And I thought he did a great job of that in that interview.
I could not agree with you more. Breaking it down like that, and I realized it right away what he was doing, and I just thought it was very smart and it really helps just expand the field of people that are going to stay engaged throughout that interview, right? The more you break it down for them, because we're so used to being around people who just know the lingo and know the talk, and are a bunch of pool nerds like you and I are, but to reach a greater audience, phenomenal job, absolutely phenomenal. I could not agree with you more, Joey.
Now, on the other side of
Shockingly.
it, some of the criticism about the interview is that it took people who maybe don't know much about pool toward their stereotype of what they probably have the preconceived notions of, that drugs, gambling, smoking, dark, smoky pool halls, and I do think that happened. But our buddy Mark White did a post about it and talked about how terrible he thought it was that they highlighted the drugs and they highlighted the gambling. And I made a comment to his post saying, hey, look, this has to appeal to everyone out there and it has to be interesting. And not that Fedor's not an interesting person, he is, but to have a 2.5 hour conversation with him, there has to be stories, there has to be intrigue, there has to be things that are like different than what the average person, if Rogan has an archer on there, somebody who does archery, I'm probably not going to stay engaged for 2.5 hours unless they start telling some cool stories about like, yeah, I got attacked by a moose or, whatever. Or we got drunk one night and shot arrows into, the side of the house, whatever. And so I think that was necessary for that type of interview. And I thought it brought a lot of color to it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not somebody who's down with rubbing cocaine on your cue for the powder, like it was brought up on the show. But at the same time, I think there needs to be a mixture of, the new generation, the Fedor Gorse, the Josh Fillers, the Shane Van Bonis, the guys who are serious pool players and don't really get into the grimy scene, uh, along with the stories from back in the day of, just the crazy stuff that happened. Thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think you can get away from the history of the game, whether or not people want to acknowledge it or not. You can't fade. How pool has come, into the mainstream. I think that going and acknowledging it is gonna get people that they remember watching this, or they remember that one time in a pool room. And then you have someone like Federer who can be a professional, who can show that, hey, things are now changing. Go watch this event on this app. You'll see professionals play. Go watch this type of event. And you'll see a world champion being crowned. It was a mixed bag of things, of different topics. But you can't talk about the sport without talking about that part of it. I feel like, if you're gonna go that far back, just in my opinion, I think it's short sighted to for Mark to have that that type of reaction. Um, and to be honest, like there has to be some drama and sex appeal when it comes to pool. And if you're gonna have a bunch of stoic pool players sitting in the chair, waiting for the next shot, I'm sorry, that's not gonna go move the needle.
I'm
Just
going to defend Mark a little bit. We know he's a pool purist. And Federer even talked about in the interview how in Europe, there's just a different focus. And, folks do it a little bit differently, right? They're not into gambling. If they are, it's just a little bit here or there. It's mainly about tournament pool and about preparation. And that's what Mark's about. And he's coming from the perspective of raising the image of pool, which I think there's some validity to that. But at the same time, when I did my pool player podcast and interviewed players, people got most excited for those stories of the road, right?
without a doubt,
For
man.
the
Without
CJ
a doubt.
Wiley crazy stories about when he hustled this guy out of this and dressed up as a painter and went into this town for 3 weeks, or Scott Frost's story he tells about who was that guy? Tony Baloney. He tells that story. I think we
Yeah,
put that in our Patreon and
right.
shared it with people.
I
But
mean, listen,
you know,
there's plenty. If they wanted to just to go and throw shade on pool, for lack of a better phrase, there's plenty of characters you could have gone and pulled out of the pool world to really just if you think that it was just meant to be negative, and if you think I'm lying, go to Derby City in a few weeks and hang out at around 3:30 in the morning, and we'll introduce you because
yeah.
there's quite a few.
That's a great point. Our buddy Nate Tam, he comments, he says it was positive overall, but it was a little irking to hear Joe keep going back and centering the conversation around the underside, or as he called it, like the subculture. I agree with that. I think Joe did get he did take the conversation back to the drugs, back to the gambling, back to that a little too much. But I'm going to discuss that with Joe because I have a couple Instagram messages in with him. And actually, one of them's from 3 years ago when I started my podcast and he didn't reply. So I just built it onto that.
But if you'll
So
notice, Joey, you can go look at everything that's been on the mainstream as of late. Every single one of them, at some point or another, are touching base on those things. If that's what the mainstream thinks about pool, you can't fade it, man.
yeah,
You can't undo what's gone on for decades in our sport, right? But you can address it, and you can also show the professionals. You can show the Shanes, you can show the Federers, you can show the Jeanettes, you can show great ambassadors where you can touch base and acknowledge what's happened and look at where the sport's going. Look at the future. Look at the great things that are happening. There was a lot of positives that I took out of that
yeah.
as well.
I was really surprised with Rogan's knowledge of pool.
Well, he's a
He
pool fan.
wasn't.
You got that right off the bat, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, and we knew that going in, but I thought that that really came across that he was very knowledgeable about the sport, but then also knowledgeable about a lot of personalities, a lot of history of the game. Like he knew certain things that Federer didn't know, which obviously Federer's 22.
Do y'all want to
And
see Earl on there? Is what I want to know. That's really what I want to do. Do the pool fans think that Earl should be on there next? Because if your position is that you don't want the underbelly of pool being discussed, imagine Earl going on a tirade for 7 minutes about pool and golf, and I mean it'll be beautiful, but it'll also be a train wreck as well.
well, maybe. Yeah. But I
Maybe.
overall great for the sport. Wonderful job by Fedor. I thought he did great. I thought he showed his personality, some humor here and there. Even dropped a F bomb on there, which I was wondering if that was coming. My wife, so I put it on in the car, and the kids were in the car, and she's like, "Hey, is this gonna have a lot of bad language?" I know Rogan used a lot of bad language, and I was like, "No, not with Fedor on there." And sure
How
enough,
many
he drops it.
times? How many times have you called me and the first thing you tell me is my kids are in the car, and after the
Yeah,
years of knowing you now, I know that that's code for Mike, watch your mouth. And I
yeah. I say that, and then 10 minutes into our conversation, you drop one.
I
All
mean
right.
well.
Well,
I mean well.
enough said, I think, about that interview. Great for pool, and I'd love to see Rogan. He has like his regular podcast, and then he throws in an MMA edition. Like once out of every 8 or 9 episodes, I think he'll throw in like an MMA UFC type of interview with one of the guys from UFC. I'd love to see him do that with pool, maybe once every 6 months or once every 3 months. And who's okay? Question for you, Mike. You asked here, and we got mixed results on Earl. Who would you like to see Rogan have on next from the pool world?
Hmm. I think it would. I think it is Earl because I think he's. I think that the train wreck or the car wreck aspect is going to get a lot of views, and for me, I'd rather have a lot of views on pool. Let them get excited for that part of it, and then go and enjoy when you get to see something spectacular like a great event or a great match. But you're never going to get in there if you don't have a platform like that. I feel like to kind of look at the characters out there, and that's
I
why
got
like Jason's, Jason and all of his personality, I think would also be
that's
great.
mine. Jason
Yeah,
Shaw. I think
Alex,
Jason.
John Sotelo says Alex. Alex would be great. Alex is phenomenal and very witty,
Alex is
very
good.
personable. Alex would be great.
I
John
think
Schmidt.
yeah, John would be great. I think my favorite would be Jason. Out of all the people that we've talked to in the last couple years doing this, I think the one where it just flows easiest is Jason Shaw. We've interviewed him a few times now, and I mean, you just throw out even a bad question. As an interviewer, you have to ask good questions with certain people, right? You can't just ask a yes or no question. You have to ask the right question.
Right.
Even when you ask Jason a bad question, he turns it into something great. It turns it into gold. I think he would be great on that. But yeah, Scott Frost would be another good one. Patty Lyon, there's a
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
of good suggestions. Raymond's got some in there. Jeanette, people want to see Jeanette on there. CJ Wiley, T Rex. I like it. Okay. Well, how about this? How about let's switch gears now, get off the topic of Rogan, because I'm going to see if Rogan will come on here one day. See if we can do that. And we can ask him stuff
Do you
personally.
can you get him, Joe? That's what I want to know. Can you get
I'm
him?
gonna try. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna like tell him about my latest health issues. See if he feels sorry for me. We'll see. Maybe Fedor can help.
what
I don't
whatever it takes. Whatever it takes, my
know.
man.
All right, so let's do this. Let's go with some good memories from 2022, Melina. You and I had a bunch, but I'm curious to hear if you had to say like what was one of your biggest surprises from the pool world in 2022. What would you go with?
Oh boy. I mean, there was just so many things that happened throughout the year. Um, Jason breaking the record comes to mind. From surprising surprises though, that was probably one of them. Um, I guess it was Fran and Ruiz and the consistency that he's had. Just winning, the manner in which he won, the ways he came back and won. He still made it to a final after losing his first round. I think it was in the UK. Starting off with Derby City last year, which is coming right back around this year, to finishing off the year winning a U.S. Open. It just from beginning to end, that was probably the most surprising. I mean, he was always knocking on the door, but to come with it like that the way he did, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go with what Josh Sotelo says in the chat. Fedor not getting picked for the Mosconi Cup. Uh, it might not have been as big a surprise for you, Mike, because you're a little more in the know than me. You might have known a little bit of what was going on there. But when he did not get chosen, that floored me. It shocked me, and that's nothing against David. We chatted with David after the Mosconi Cup. Seemed like he really had a chip on his shoulder. Wasn't too happy
He
about
did
some of the things that were said about him, and took some of those things
probably
personally.
towards me.
Yeah, it took some,
Yeah,
he did give you kind of a stare down there,
yeah.
but it was nothing personal against David. It's just when you had somebody that had the type of year that Fedor has, and I like when, not to go back to Rogan, but when Rogan says to Fedor, like, you're arguably one of the top 3 players in the world. I mean, what are you going to do to be the best or whatever? And Federer is like, I might already be the best. And he wasn't saying that in an arrogant way, I don't think.
Federer's one
But
of the
I
most
think,
humble guys on earth. So for him to say
yeah,
that really just, I mean, that's the God honest truth. You know?
yeah. But I think I think that's true. A lot of people regard him as the best in the world. And yet he was left off that roster, and it was huge. And so, but it is what it is. And there was
If I
some
didn't see
stink
it
about it
coming,
right away, but I think Federer handled it with class. And I think he's going to have many more Mosconi Cups to play.
yeah, if I didn't think I'd saw it coming, then I probably would have been more surprised. But the rumblings that I heard in the last couple of weeks leading up to it made me think otherwise. I was still kind of like, there's no way he'll off. But yeah, that was a surprise. Tara mentions SVB's comeback against Mika, that was without a doubt the comeback of the year. And for me, like the best moment of the year for me was Shane winning a world championship, and it's not close because
We didn't get the best
I,
moments yet.
okay, I'm sorry, I'm dogging it already, but yeah, no, Federer, you're right though. Federer does have many more Mosconi Cups to come. Chances are it probably won't be next year's Mosconi Cup though, because it is out of the states and he will not be leaving the U.S. for some time, as far as I understand, because he's getting his green card. So, um,
Do you
pretty
have
good shot.
confirmation? Do you have confirmation that it is in the UK? Because I heard a rumor about right after the Mosconi ended that it might be back in the US again.
Well, don't you have that thing from Matchroom?
Is it there? Hold on.
I mean, go look at it.
Does it
Let me
say?
see.
Let's see.
Well, pull up the screen here.
It's so hard. This is one of the things we're going to cover today.
Yeah, but
It
if
just says
if
Mosconi Cup TBC.
it doesn't say the location though on there.
No, it does
Yeah,
not.
on the previous one, the one you had up. Bring up the graphic, Joey.
All right, stand by.
The one you had queued
Talking
up
about
ready to
this one?
go. No.
Look,
The other
each of
one.
these events
The
has a
calendar, Joey.
location. Look,
The
right here.
calendar. No. Where's the calendar you had with the picture on
Oh,
it a
okay,
second
hold on,
ago?
stand by. This one.
Yeah. So look at it says UK.
Oh, it does say UK. It does say UK.
Bingo. Yeah. There you go.
That could change. Never know.
I'm not
I
saying it
mean,
can't change, but
if it's in the UK, that's 3 out of 4 years. It's not really fair, Emily. Just saying.
here we go. It's already starting.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Okay, what was one of your biggest disappointments from this year, Mike, in the pool world?
That's tough, Joe. I don't know. What was yours?
One of my biggest disappointments. Okay, one of my biggest disappointments was the younger generation of U.S. pool players that are kind of on the cusp of Mosconi didn't really seize it like I thought they would. I really thought going into 2022, Chris Reinhold would be vying for a spot on Mosconi. Shane Wolford would be vying for a spot. I thought Billy would have a more prominent role. Nick DeLeon, I thought he would go deeper in some of the tournaments where he was kind of on the cusp of getting pretty deep in a few tournaments. Greg Hogue, we saw him win an event, but then at the international, I know he was kind of under the weather, I think, and had some back issues. That was his opportunity to really put some question marks in Jeremy's mind about Earl or whatever. There was just that after that elite group of U.S. players, that next tier of players, I'm just waiting for somebody to break through. And I was disappointed that we didn't see someone really seize it and break through this year. That's my biggest disappointment.
Yeah, I don't know if I can agree with that. I think it's just par for the course. I think we want things right away, and I think that their time is coming. I just don't think that their time was now, if that makes sense. So, just on that topic. But for me, I don't know, man. I don't got a whole lot of disappointments, to be honest with you. Probably not going to Puerto Rico because that looked like a great event. But
oh yeah, wow,
but
did it? That
but
venue
aside,
looked amazing. Everybody
yeah,
who went talked about how awesome it was there.
right, yeah. But besides that, no, I think everything was pretty. It was a great year. At the beginning of the year, there's always talk about the future of pool, and it's looking great. It's looking great. And I look at where it's at. Calendar's more busy than it ever will be in this upcoming year. There's so many events. People are gonna have a lot of options to choose from. Um, yeah, and I'm excited where the sport's at, and I want to keep it optimistic. I mean, it's a brand new year, right?
So let's talk about the calendar, right? We're at a place right now. I remember during the pandemic, when the pandemic started, I started Pool Player Podcast, and I remember thinking, man, I should just do something to help grow the sport. If I could play just a little piece in pool growing, and I'm not taking any credit for this, but I think with this show, with Nate's show, with some of the other things that are out there, pool is getting more popular, and the promoters are doing more with the sport, whether it's the demand of the fans, whether it's the demand of the players, whether it's competition between the promoters. We're seeing promoters step up and really do a lot. And when Matchroom came out with their calendar, they basically put a bunch of players in the middle and had them share it online and everything, which is fine. They're marketing geniuses, but they came out with this calendar of events, And when they did, I said, "Holy cow!" And this is the calendar right here. It's a little tough to see. Let me see if I can make that a little bit bigger.
Hold on,
But
let me turn up the
when I
chat.
saw this, yeah, here we go. When I saw this, I hate how they have ads on their website. Emily, can we take care of that? Thanks. Um, I saw these events and I said, "Holy cow! This is like a full calendar of events." We went from having pretty much no men's or open pro tournament or pro tour to now two of them, really, with this one probably being uh, having the most events for sure. And Matchroom kind of went about it in a little different way than Predator and CSI have gone about it, where they're partnering with other events that are out there. And one of the things about this schedule that I noticed right off, there's a few events on here that I think are really interesting. There's this event that's coming up in April 22nd and 23rd at First Break Cafe. That's in Northern Virginia. I used to play there quite a bit. Brandon Schuff used to be pretty much his home room there. That's the Bob Stocks Memorial Tournament that they have there every year. Would always draw a tough field. Now that's going to be a points ranking event for Matchroom, as well as Turning Stone, which is coming up, I think, this weekend. Is going to be a points event. What were your thoughts when you saw this calendar come out, Mike?
Domination. You know, they they went after it. You know, there was a lot of talks, and you know, we're privy to some things beforehand, and hearing rumblings of, you know, Matchroom blocking off X amount of calendars, or X amount of dates on the WPA calendar. Now that they don't have those restrictions, they can do what they want, and they're working with other people now, and they're taking over on a global scale, getting more of a proper tour. There's not, you know, there's no Euro Tour here in the States, right, or anything like it. But there's more events that are getting added on to have more events domestically, more events in Asia, more events in Europe, and they're all going to be working towards common goals because everyone, all these top players are going to want to get invites to World Championships. They're going to want to get invites to World Pool Masters. They're going to want to get invites to the World Cup of Pool. There's all those points events are gearing you and pushing you towards getting invited to those things. So a lot of those top players are more than likely going to be attending those events. So it's pretty genius. I
What do
gotta
you
say.
think the angle is for all the Asian events? Because we know that the European and the U.S. events, the European and U.S. players earn points to qualify for
Oh,
Mosconi Cup.
I think that Reyes Cup is coming. I don't
You do?
and I don't and I yeah, and I don't know that. I haven't heard anything. I mean, like, besides what I've heard before and the things that Emily has said on the show, I don't know that with any kind of certainty. I don't know if and when it'll be announced, but I think this is the foundation for it. You know.
This would be awesome, right? Because there's enough of these events in Asia right now after this year to where they could have points rankings for next year. And so, you know, next September or next August or whatever, they could say, oh, well, based on the Asian point results, you know, here's Team Asia, and they'll be going against Team Europe or whomever. It's kind of neat.
Yeah, I think it would be very competitive. I think it'd be compelling. I think it would put the Europeans in a much tougher position and, you know, put some pressure on them from the very beginning. I would love to see that event. I don't think you'll ever have the aura of the Mosconi Cup, but I think it could be a great event in pool. I do. And on top of that, there was a thing by Sharks, if I'm not mistaken, because I saw their calendar and they are part of a few of these Asian events. But at the very end of it, it was a Taiwan versus Philippines event, and I want to say it was around November-ish. So I think either way, we'll get a taste of it. But nobody puts on the type of event like Matchroom does. You know,
Yeah.
they just don't.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm excited for it, and what a calendar of events! Congratulations to Matchroom for putting this together. There's also another series that's going on. It's the U.S. Pro Billiard Series, and I pull this up. You can see up at the top. Predator and CSI have partnered for 6 events coming up this year. The
yeah, Joe,
Arizona
but
Open.
that's 2022 schedule though,
Oh, it is.
because in January is Atlantic City. I know that, and that's
Oh,
gonna
I dodge
be
it.
and I want to say the January event for Atlantic City is just going to be a women's event, and I want to say it's the same time as Derby City because Derby City doesn't have an actual
Rats.
um, yeah.
Well, we
If you
got to
go to,
get
I think,
Ozzy on. We got to get Ozzy on and have him discuss this and let
We
us know
do.
his schedule for 2023. It's still on, right? They still have a bunch of events coming.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think I want to say I think there'll be some tweaking, going on when it comes to the format. I don't know that.
I heard. Have you heard
It,
anything about it?
that they're taking things into consideration.
I
Specifics, I
heard
don't
we
know
might
what.
be looking at 2 races to 5 now.
Yeah, I haven't heard that specifically, but I would. I
It's-
think it had. Listen, if Matchroom's putting on more events, you got to have something to get more players in. I feel like, right? And
yeah.
I think they've shown that they're not a fan of those short races or the way the format is in its current form. They show up for the World Championships. That's great. They show up in Puerto Rico. That's great. But there was other events where it was a little lackluster on it. Other
Yeah.
times when there was other events going on, all the players were in town. But if there's other stuff going on across the world, you got to do something else to bring them in. I feel like, right? So in the format is going to have to be a big part of that. So, but we'll see. I think they're doing a great job as well. They're putting a lot of money into pool. They got events all across the country, actually all across the world now. We talked to Corinne before, and I know you mentioned the World 8 Ball going back to Japan. The World Teams is also going to be in there. They're doing a Women's World 9 Ball. They're expanding, their calendar as well and their events, which is fantastic for pool. It'd be great if they could figure out a way to work together. I don't see that happening. But yeah, at least there'll be options for guys to choose from, right? If
Yeah,
nothing
no, I'm
else.
excited for it. And they even talked about that on the podcast with Rogan. Him and Fedor talked about just the difference in those races to 4, the difference in the format, and how much pressure that brought, and how they thought it was a good idea for the fans. But I did also hear that there might be some compromise this year with the length of the races and things like that. So we'll see how that shakes out in 2023. One other thing to kind of let people know about, I had a conversation with one of our sponsors from the trip, Griff's in Las Vegas. I talked to Mark Griffin the other day. Did you know, Mike, that he owns, what is it? I think he owns 4. Is it 4? Yeah, I think he owns 4 U.S. Opens.
Sam, what for are
Huh?
they? And don't look at your computer screen either. Look over
U.S.
here, right here,
Okay,
right
U.S.
here,
Open
buddy.
10 ball, U.S. Open 8 ball, U.S. Open. Oh, he owns 5. He owns 5. U.S. Open Banks, U.S. Open One Pocket, and U.S. Open Straight Pool. But they haven't had that in a while, and he's not really sure what they're going to do with that. But those 4 are coming up in 2023 as well. And I believe April. I think it's April 3rd through the 8th. It starts off with the U.S. Open 10 ball at Griff's, and then it's going to pick up with the U.S. Open 8 ball at Griff's. And I got to tell you, I play good 8 ball, Mike. I might take a shot at that one. I don't know. What do you
What's the
think?
entry fee like, Joe?
I don't know. You got to back me? Is
I
that
wouldn't
what
go
you're
that
getting at?
far.
Are you trying to get me to
I,
save my money?
yeah, I was gonna say, send me half the money you were planning on spending going over there, and then just call it a win, buddy. I'll send you a
Oh,
trophy or
man.
something. We'll
Yeah.
get you something. We'll get you something to put on that wall behind you. How
Hey,
about that?
maybe we can get some more people to participate in our Patreon, patreon.com/dog. And if you like what we're doing, and you want to help send me to a few tournaments, I'm just kidding. This doesn't go to my tournaments. This goes to sending us to tournaments to cover them and interview players and get you guys more content. Head on over to our Patreon, and there's several different tiers in there, kind of one for every budget. So hopefully you guys can support us that way. What were we going to say,
Yeah,
Mike? You were going to talk about our giveaway?
yeah. We just gave away some programs signed by a bunch of players. Right here was
I
one of
never
them.
got mine, Mike.
Yeah. It's Go look in the mailbox, buddy. I'll wait here for you.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Go check. Go check.
I'm
No,
like,
we'll get.
you got like, what'd you get? Like 5 of them signed. And I'm like, hey, I want one of those, Mike. And you're like, oh, okay, sure. And then I see you razz off or give out 4 of them to our patrons. And then you take
I
one. And
was
now I
waiting
got nothing.
on you to do that show, by the way, but I ended up getting a better co-host and one of my daughters to help do the drawing. We gave away 3, which I'll probably be shipping tomorrow, more than likely. But we're gonna try to have a lot of cool stuff like that. We're transitioning and trying to include more stuff on there and more stuff on the page. We got more. We do some like announcing on there right now, but we're gonna get more active in there. It's just been a weird time with the holidays going on, your health scare, all these things, but we're definitely going to be more involved on there as well. A lot of big events coming up, including the Derby, which I'm really excited for. So we're gonna have a lot of good content, I feel like.
You know what, Mike? Jennifer Abbott's commenting, and she's glad to see Ellen and Mike back. I'm never gonna live this Ellen comment down. Never, ever, ever. I can't believe you.
It
Crazy.
was very random. I said, Joe, let's take a picture before we head downstairs, at the
I thought
hotel.
it was just gonna.
And
I thought you just wanted to commemorate our time together, and then
you
you
look
go
you look very
roast me.
fabulous. That's all I'm saying. You
You
look,
roasted me. Yeah.
yeah. The thing is, Joe, it just comes natural. But I love you
Okay.
though.
Yeah. Did you
You're
see the
family.
picture I put on Facebook when my daughter did my hair? Did you see that one?
I did. And you know what? But see, here's the thing. You started all this by going live, and I didn't even know for like a day that you went live dogging me out of the closet situation there at the hotel room.
Oh yeah,
So
that's true.
yeah,
That's true.
I
I
was
got
saying
you
I
there.
was saying I took every damn hanger in there. So it all came full circle there.
Hey, Josh was asking about OBQs. Yeah, OBQs unfortunately did go out of business. Um, they had to make a business decision there. I talked to Mark about that the other day. But yeah, that's just one of the things that happens sometimes. But hey, Mike, let's talk about one other thing. I saw a post the other day. I heard a rumor. You heard a rumor. We kind of talked about it. I hate hearing a rumor because then I talk to you about the rumor and you've already heard the rumor, and then I feel like I can never provide any insight, any
Literally,
value to
Joey
our show.
calls me with like such excitement. Mike, I need to tell you something, but it has to be off the record, and you can't open your mouth. This is how he starts off like 90% of our conversations. And I'm like, all right, Joe, what's up, man? And then he tells me something, and I'm like, oh yeah, I heard that last week. And he's like,
It's terrible.
what? Yeah.
Having a friend like you is terrible, man. You can never tell any new information. But then I saw a post on it. And so when I saw the post on it, I'm
Yep.
like, yeah, it's happening. Tony and Shane rematch of their big one pocket match, maybe for more money. Uh,
It won't
I'm
be
pretty
maybe for
excited
more
about that.
money. It'll be for a lot more money. With Tony's
So
post, yeah.
yeah, tell
Go
me.
ahead.
Let's talk about that post because I haven't talked to Tony. I wasn't too privy on it. And then I see that post and he's talking about, yeah, I lost money at the casino and then the bet changed and all this happened. What do you know about it?
I think all those things are true. I don't think Tony comes across like he's making excuses, but I don't think that's where his angle was with it though. Um, I think he's just keeping it real. And if anybody knows Tony, you know that he's wired differently. He gets up for the money. It's great to play Shane and all those things and the competitive part, blah blah blah. No, no, no. Tony wanted to win and win a lot of money. That was part of the deal. He wanted the bet to be sky high, and he was not afraid of it, and his backers weren't afraid of it either. Uh, how that bet changed and why the bet changed, I didn't find out. I didn't care to find out, and I found out whenever Tony posted about it that it adjusted. So, but I could see Tony get disengaged, and you can say, oh well, they're still playing for whatever it was, like 35,000 a man. Listen, Tony's a different kind of gambler. Like if you know Tony, then you know what I mean. And I think, and I haven't talked to Shane, but I think that with Tony saying some stuff like that, Shane maybe got a chip on his shoulder, and he's got guys who are willing to bet a lot of money, and say, well, if you really want to find out, we can find out. And maybe before, but they weren't as confident. Now, after seeing Shane play one pocket a few times, maybe they're a little bit more confident now. So
Total speculation here, but when you think about it, if the bet was supposed to be 50, then it goes to 35 a man or something. You know that Tony's got a corporation or he's got somebody kind of putting him in. So that's not 35 that he's going to win, right? So when you look at it, you're looking at what can I win from this? I'm going to take time out of my life, travel out to Las Vegas, play one of the best players in the world for 2-3 days. And that can be a little disheartening. You think you're going out there, if his cut was going to be 25,000 or if his cut was going to be 30,000, whatever it's going to be, and all of a sudden that got cut in half or changed significantly, then his motivation could change significantly. I think I agree with you. I think he's kind of a different type of player, who gets up for the big money and the money that can really make an impact in his life. And, if it's money that other people would kind of have a hard time playing for on the high end, like right, $10,000, you'd probably be shaking like a leaf playing for $10,000. Tony
sure,
playing for $10,000 isn't enough to get him excited.
it's not. It's not,
you
and
know? So
it sounds
sounds
ridiculous to the
crazy.
average person. Yeah,
Yeah.
1,000%. But it's just the way Tony is, and Tony can get disengaged. I've seen it time and time again. He can check out. Now that match, and on top of that, the match was great. I mean, it was a phenomenal match. It had a lot of back and forth. I thought Tony was going to come back and actually win the match for a certain period of time, and he was up, I think, late in that third day, if memory serves me. But here's the deal. This is just my opinion, right? Shane was coming off of a lot of shit leading up to it. I mean, Shane was
Yeah.
coming off of a lot. If you know, a lot of things personally for Shane, a lot of things professionally for Shane. There was a lot going on. Shane was on fumes going into that match with Tony. If Shane goes in there rested and hanging out at the house and on the lake for the last, 60 plus days, there's a chance he may not be at the Derby. He's probably won't be at Turning Stone after what happened last year. Um, I A well rested Shane and an inspired Shane, I think you might want to be careful what you ask for. That's just my personal opinion. So
Wow, I'm looking forward to seeing it. One cool memory that I had from our time in Vegas, each night we would go over to Griff's and we do a little show over at Griff's. And the
I
one
love
night
that,
we
by the way, Joey. That was a
yeah,
lot of fun.
that was a cool idea. And thanks for Mark Griffin for, finding the spot for us over there when he had like hundreds of people in the place. But one of the
So
cool
ridiculous.
things that if you don't know Tony, I interviewed Tony one time for my show. Never had met Tony in person. And then I walked into, I think it was the Texas Open last year, and I see Tony. And I looked at him and I was kind of thinking, is he going to remember me? Is he really going to? And he comes over and he's like, hey, Joey, how's it going? And when we were in Griff's that night, he walks in, he says hi to us, he's sitting down near us. And I saw like 5 or 6 other people come over and say hi to Tony. And Tony's like, hey, Steve, hey, Rick. He like, he's got this gift for making people feel important. He's one of the best one pocket players in the world. And yet
Great
all these
commentator too.
people who are just regular pool players coming up saying hi to him, and he remembers people, and you could tell he cares about people. He's just a really cool guy, and I think he's kind of a
Without a
gift
doubt.
to our sport. I think he's one of those guys where you're not often going to see him on the matchroom stage or anything like that, but he is a gift. When he walks into a pool room, he brings a certain calmness. He brings a certain joy, happiness. People are glad to see him. People want to see what he's going to do. And then he's nice to people, which is awesome for a pool player. I don't know.
Could not agree
Just a
more.
little
I
bro
think
love
he's
for Tony
no,
Chohan.
no. He's listen. Tony's an elite one pocket player, an elite pool
Yeah,
player.
yeah,
And if even if you're not a one pocket enthusiast like I am or whatever, for whatever I am, I guess. Anyway, you'll go ask great players, what they think about Tony, and all of them show him mad love. I remember
yeah.
asking like rotation players, ask Europeans who are world champions, ask Naoki Oi who he thinks the best, one pocket player is. Tony will be up there on the list. Tony gets a lot of respect from a lot of people, not just from his peers, but from fans because of his style of play, how he likes to gamble, his fearlessness, his heart. Maybe he can bite off a little bit more than he can chew, but Tony can also come up with some great things, and we've been lucky to see it. I'm gonna be really excited to see Tony and Shane play again because I think it'll be built up a lot more. I'm hoping to be back in Vegas as well because that was fun to go and watch, and there's nothing like it. But yeah, I I can't wait, man. I love good one pocket. I love watching Shane play. I love watching Tony play. Sign me up.
Yeah, me too. So for our last segment, let's talk about 2023. So in 2022, I asked you like some of your best memories, and the memory about winning a world championship came
We
up.
never got there. We never got there.
We didn't do that. We didn't talk about that.
No, no, we
I,
didn't. You
I
you
thought
you
we
shut
did.
me you shut me down like within 10 seconds of getting into
Well, you got too much facial hair. You're looking a little scruffy.
it. It's weighing me
Gotta put
down.
you in your place. Gotta put you in your
Yeah,
place.
yeah, yeah.
No, but seriously, that was a great moment from 2022. Shane finally winning a world title and getting that monkey off his back. And so I'm curious in 2023 if we get another rookie world championship winner, who's that going to be? Who's your
A,
pick?
a rookie world. No, who's your pick? If it was up to you, you'll pick all the Americans on
I
Earth.
guess not a
And
rookie, first time world championship winner. Who would it be for you?
You go first. I need
Oh, I got
I'm ready.
one. I
Okay,
got a
let's
good
go.
one.
Let's hear it.
Sky Woodward. Sky Woodward's going to win a world championship this year. Watching him play at Moscone, if he can capture that intensity that he plays with under the lights at the Moscone Cup and apply that to the world championship stage, right? And sometimes it's tricking your mind. You know, sometimes it's telling yourself that maybe you're in a different environment. If he can do that and get in the box in a world championship with the same focus that he has at Moscone Cup, there is no reason that kid can't win a world championship. No reason at all.
I'm on with Tommy Bow. Where's Tommy at? Give me highlight Tommy
All
Bow's
right,
comment and make it
Tommy Bow.
make it a big neon banner at the top of our show here. Tommy Bow,
You
I'm
going
on
with
board.
Victor?
I'm going with Victor. I'm going with the kid. I think that kid is phenomenal. Now, don't get me wrong. Sky is Sky, and you're right. Every year at the Moscone Cup, he does spectacular things. He can always go, deep in 9 ball events. There's no ifs, ands, and or doubts about it. But you gotta. Besides the Derby City, which is a great, win to go and have, but it's been a few years. So
Look, it's his
um,
time to break through. It really is. And I don't know that I can. I've always known this guy's a great player, right? The same way we know that Josh is a great player, the same way we know that Albin's a great player. But watching them all compete together on that stage at Moscone Cup, it was being there in person and just watching Sky's intensity. I I tell you, he could be a world champion, and I think he will be. I think he will be this year. He's going to be a world champion. So let's do a last longer bet, or let's do a bet on world championships this year. You got Victor. I take Sky.
we don't got a world championships. There's like three. I'll go with majors. How about that? Let's go with major
Major.
wins. I'll go with majors, and I
What
will gladly
qualifies as
take.
a major? Do like the events that's on the Matchroom calendar qualify as a major?
Well, there's
Like
predator
Turning
events
Stone, would
that
that
are made.
qualify as a major?
Turning Stone as a major. I mean, no disrespect, but Turning Stone as a major. No, the
I'm just asking. I'm trying to get the
the
parameters down.
the U.S. Open is a major. Turning Stone's not a major. Texas Open is a great event. Texas Open is not a major. It's just not. So,
You're making a lot
you
of friends on here tonight.
hey, listen,
I just got a message from Mike Zuglin talking about who's this Molina Mike.
Oh no,
Anyhow,
Mike knows me well. Trust me, he knows me well online. He's one of the many ones who can't stand me, and there's a long list there. Trust me.
did you block
So,
him? Do you remember?
I don't
Hey,
know.
do you remember the first time I blocked
Possibly.
somebody on Facebook? I was all distraught about it. I called you.
Joey, he didn't. I had to like go through therapy with Joey. For many hours. He felt awful about it. We won't mention any names, but yeah, no.
Andrew Cleary. I felt
Yeah.
terrible. I blocked the guy, and then I'm like, should I have done that? Should I unblock him? I just feel bad, but he was being such a jerk to me. And then I call you, and I'm like, Mike, I just had to block my first person ever. He's like,
Felt
my
terrible.
button, my finger stays on that block button.
Listen, hand out those like I'm Oprah, son.
All right, pick two more for first time world championship winners, and I'll pick two more. I'll have a team of three. You have a team of three. Let's just say majors. Majors.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with Victor. I'll go with uh, I'll go with Sanjin. Um,
I like that.
yeah, I'll need
This
help
is
on
a
my
tough one.
last
This is
one. Yeah,
this is a
you
tough
go.
one.
You pick your second one, and then I'll pick my last one.
My second one, I'm gonna go with who said this in the chat because as soon as I saw it, my eyes lit up. Hold on. Josh and I are jiving tonight. A lot of this stuff. I'll go with Chua, former or fellow QTech player. Chua, do you remember that match we watched him play against Oi out there in Vegas? What a stud this guy is! Unbelievable. Uh, if I
Oh, at
remember
the
correctly,
World 10 Ball, wasn't it?
yeah, if I remember correctly, they were hill, and Oi pushes out to a jump shot, and Chua jumps the ball in and runs out to win hill. That guy's just a stud. I'm going with that. Okay. I got Chua and Sky. And you have who do you have?
Oh,
Sanjin. I'm writing this down. Sanjin
Sanjin.
and Victor.
Little Co. I don't think he qualifies because Little Co has won the World 10 Ball. He
Yeah, we
beat
can't go
Josh.
with the
He beat
Yeah.
yeah. He won. He he beat Josh in the World 10 ball a couple of years ago. Aloysius is a good one as well. I think hasn't.
He's won
But
a
we're talking.
Predator. He's won 2,
But
I think, or hasn't
we're
he?
talking like rookies, right? So like they haven't.
Well, yeah, like people who haven't won a major.
Maybe they haven't broken through then, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Boy, I don't know. It's gonna be tough, man. I'll probably go with another European. I'm just trying to think of who I would go with.
Of
Maybe
course you will.
well, Kazakis maybe. No.
No, he won the Masters, bro.
That's an invitational. That's not a major.
Still,
Let
he
him.
whitewashed Shane in the
Oh, you know
finals.
what? Mario He. There you go. Sign me up with Mario. Yeah,
He's won a
Mario all day
million.
long.
He's won a million events, bro.
No.
You can't even
What?
pick an
What?
underdog
What?
if
You're
I'm
probably just mad
incentivizing
because you
you.
were gonna pick
You're
him.
always
That's it.
picking the chalk.
You were gonna pick him. That's what it is. I
It's like,
see
Mike,
right
who
through
do
you,
you
Red.
like in this event? Oh, I like Josh. I like Jason. I like Shane. I can never get you to pick like an underdog.
Do we have the Max Lechner pick from our draft? Which, by the way, are we gonna do a draft for Derby? We need to do another draft.
Yes, let's do
That was a
that.
lot of fun. Another fantasy one.
You know what? Let's do this. Let's invite our Patreons, our patrons from Patreon, and let's get a big like fantasy draft for Derby going for that. We got time for that? We can put that together.
We got like 30 patrons. What do you mean? I mean, what are we gonna
35.
have? Yeah, there's a lot.
Maybe we'll do a
I mean,
couple
maybe.
drafts,
Okay, I like that.
or we
I
can
like that.
draw like maybe we can draw like 8 people randomly, and then out of those 8 people,
I like that.
then we'll have 10,
I
10
like that.
teams,
But
and
that
then we
means
can
they got to
do
join the show, though, right? So they all got to be comfortable with coming on
and
and
talking trash.
being a bunch of idiots with us.
Yeah. By the way, if you guys haven't logged onto our Patreon, it's patreon.com/dogging it. Appreciate any support you guys can give us. Kind of helps us get to these events and do some cool things. So yeah, I need a third pick, Melina, and no chalk, and get off your phone.
I went with my third pick. I got Mario, Sanjin, and
I'm not
Victor.
giving you
Those are
Mario, bro. Mario's
what?
won big events.
What is Mario won? Please enlighten me, sweetheart.
Do you want Fedor
Enlighten me.
instead? You just want Fedor or filler? You want Fedor?
You are really salty because I believe Mario was going to be your pick. Tell me I'm lying here, Red. Tell
No,
me I'm
you're
lying.
lying.
No.
I'm taking the butcher.
Oh, I'm stealing.
Fortunski.
What are we betting? Please let me know.
Look,
What
I
are we
wish I
betting?
could get a bet on the field of Poland. You know what I mean? Like my third pick could just be anybody from Poland.
Okay, how about this? If you were going to make a bet, Poland versus the Philippines to win majors, who are you betting on? I'm probably betting on Poland.
I think so.
I'm
Because
probably betting on
the
Poland.
Filipinos don't travel, like a lot of them don't travel as much. You know, like Raga. We're not going to see him out at like
Listen,
European.
Anton will be here at the Derby, and
Really?
I was yeah. You know, I know that because I helped get him that letter from Diamond, the invitational letter, to get his
Really?
passport approved. Yeah,
Man,
100% sure.
Pull.
No, I just asked for some help. Pinoza
Who else is
helps out
coming
too.
over? Do you know anybody else coming over from Asia?
He's the
for Derby?
biggest. He's the biggest fish in the pond that's coming over. I mean, listen, Anton coming over. Anton can make some waves in pool, son. Yeah,
he's got to be one of the favorites in the 9-ball, right there.
He's a favorite in any game. I feel. I mean, no. I mean, he's in the top. He's in an elite class. He's in the same class as like, the top tier players.
Yeah, it's.
But
like,
just we haven't seen him play on diamonds. Here in the States. That's the only thing. Let him get accustomed, and we'll see what happens. But he's a big boy. No pun intended.
Yeah, no, I'd like to see him play. I haven't seen him play much other than on the streams over there. And I want to see him, compete here at Derby. Should be interesting. What's your plans for Derby, Mike? When are you going out? By the way, I still didn't get your third pick.
How are you not letting me have Mario?
All right, fine. You get Mario.
No. Okay. How about this? You guys give me some help here. I saw you went with someone in the chat picking Chua. Who do I get, man? I got to pick somebody.
Well, let's see. Anybody say anything in the chat that could help your sorry ass?
Okay, how about this?
Hey, James Brinson. James
Brinson
got some help for you. Here's James Brinson. He's got some help for you.
I got it.
Max,
Justin
we know you're
Bergman.
always on his nuts anyway.
Ju- Justin effing Bergman. I
What?
think Justin's
Bergman?
I think Justin's coming back, and I messaged Justin a few weeks back. We were supposed to have him on, and I'm
Let's
gonna get
go. Let's
him.
get him on.
We're
Getting
gonna
me all
interview him.
excited.
I think he's coming back. So I'm gonna go with Justin Bergman if he's playing. If not, then my pick defaults to Mario He, just for the record. Okay, but if Justin's playing, I'll take Justin for the win. All right,
Unreal, this guy. Unreal.
all right, for the win, son.
All right. Well, guys, we're at the 1 hour mark. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. It's been a lot of fun to be back on the mic. Let's do it again soon, Melina. How about tomorrow?
We got to bring Panozzo back because it's been a little bit of time being away from my man. We got a lot of plans, a lot of things. Now that we got to get back in rhythm, we got to make some phone calls and send some messages. But yeah, hey, Derby's coming up in a few weeks. I got to talk with Oscar and get those plans ironed out. So we're not going to be able to have a booth. It was I dogged it for lack of a better word. So, but listen, that there was that guy Kyle from Rail Yard. Maybe we can go hang out there at night and do a show from there.
Okay.
I'm sure a lot of people are going to be hanging out there as well. If not, then I got some other booths, and with my internet service, and if you can man down all this stuff, all the tech stuff, then I think we'll be all right.
You got your
But
Christmas present, right?
that sounds a little weird. Okay, when you say it like that, that sounds a little weird, buddy. But yeah,
Show
actually,
the
it's right
audience.
here. It's a microphone, so that way I can plug it into my phone here, and it picks it up real well. So I'm looking
And then
forward
what
to
about
that.
your birthday present from last year? Do you have that laying around? Yeah, the gimbal. So he puts the microphone on the phone, puts the phone on the gimbal. He'll have the gyro stabilizing effect and the microphone, be able to do those interviews. You're the best at
Mike,
that. By the way,
actually,
you're the
Mike Check's
best
got
at
a
that.
really good idea, even though he can get on my nerves sometimes. Do it in the Omega room. That's a really good idea because those guys are always really good to me. So maybe I can do something out of there. I'll talk to because it'd only be for like an hour here throughout the day. So and I know they're not gonna have matches going on 24/7. I'll talk with Steven. That's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah. Well, I got to say this, Mike. You're the best at holding up your gimbal, putting your phone on it, and just asking people cool questions out in the
Look,
audience.
I'm
Like,
scared to
hey,
death interviewing
hold
people,
on.
Joe. You know that.
No, no, no. I want to hear from the audience. Don't you think that's great when Mike gets out there with his gimbal and just starts talking to people around a table near a match? I mean, it's a great thing, and not a lot of people will do that, but you'll poke your nose right in there. I remember at Moscone, right when it ended, they told us to come down and get in there and start talking to people, and I lost you. I couldn't find you. And then I turn around like 10 minutes later. I'm like, where is he? I want to get in there. You're already in there. You're already interviewing FSR. And I'm like, you son of a gun. You just went without me, but you're the best at that. So,
No, I'm scared to death, but we got a lot of passion, and it's always great working with you. I'm glad you're doing better, man. I'm glad you're doing all
hey,
right.
by
Not
the way,
just for the show standpoint, like just from a friend standpoint. I'm glad you're good, man.
I love you, brother.
Seriously.
Let me say this. Let me say this. The outpouring of support. Most of you saw the video that I put up on Facebook. For those of you that don't know, December 11th, I had a stroke, a small stroke, but they're still trying to figure out the extent of what happened. I was wrestling with my kids in the living room, and I lost feeling in my right arm, couldn't move it, and I couldn't really talk that well. And so my wife took me to the hospital, and turns out I had a stroke. They have no idea why. One doctor thinks it might be COVID related. Other doctors think it could be cholesterol related, although my cholesterol is not really high. But I've been out of commission for a little while, and I just have to tell you the outpouring of support that I've received from listeners of this show and fans of Pool Player Podcast and just people that on Facebook that message me and has really been touching, and it's helped out a lot. Uh, so I really appreciate that from the bottom of my heart, and I appreciate any prayers. Appreciate the thoughts. It's been a little bit of a struggle, but one thing that's really gotten me out of this, Mike, is just talking about getting on here with you today and being able to go after this again. Like dig in our heels. Like you and I both took a little time off, and now it's January 1st, and we're digging in our heels. In 2023, we have some awesome plans. When I saw Fedor Gorst on the Joe Rogan podcast, it's something clicked inside of me and said, you know what? When I started Pool Player Podcast a few years ago, people got excited about it. Now Joe Rogan is interviewing pool players. People care about people and what they do and their lives and what they're all about and how they tick, right? What makes them tick. And like someone like Fedor Gorse, you can go on Pool Player Podcast and watch my whole interview with him. You can watch him on Joe Rogan. You know, I want to do more of that. I want to interview more players. And my buddy in Maryland, his name is Curtis Branker. I don't know if I'm sure you saw this post, Mike. He went around and posted the top 10 Fargo rates for every
I did see
state
that.
in the United States. This guy's awesome. Curtis is awesome. But I looked at that, and you know what I was shocked by? That the number of states where I didn't know over 700 players who were in the top 10. You know, I'm looking and I'm seeing guys' names, and I'm like, I have no idea who this dude is, you know? And that means a lot of other people don't know who they are either, but they're a 730 or a 725. I want to talk to them. I want to interview them. I want to get them on Pool Player Podcast so people can find out about them and then
So I
mix
guess
in
I
obviously.
won't be on then. I'm not.
Huh?
So I guess I won't be on
Yeah,
there
no,
then.
you're not invited to those. But get on them and then also bring in the big hitters too, right? Because everybody has something of value to share with people so that they can learn more about these pool players and kind of, you know, what their secrets are, what makes them tick, what their interests are, what do they do outside of pool, that kind of thing. So I'm inspired for 2023. Ellen is here to stay. Okay, you can't get rid of me that easy. And I'm so happy to be partnering with you, Melina Mike. So let's do it.
The fact of the matter is, I'm not here if it ain't for you or for Mark White for that matter. So, um, yeah, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're doing all right, and I'm glad you're going to be doing better because I know you are. And we're going to get it, and we're going to have a good time. We're just going to bring more pool content to you guys. So, I'm looking forward to it.
That's our passion. Guys, thanks so much for joining. See you next time.